Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to another webinar brought to you from here at Nasdaq Dubai's market site. Before I start, I'd like to ask anyone who may have any questions to please post your questions in the Q&A box and not the chat box, and we'll aim to try and answer as many questions as we can towards the end of the webinar. Now, my guest today has a very interesting background. Having studied medicine at the American University of Beirut, he then went on to do a research fellowship at Harvard Medical School. But instead of practicing as a doctor, he decided to pursue a career in the corporate world and started with an MBA at Cornell University and then moved into the space of healthcare consulting. Now, he is the CEO of Amanat Holding here in the UAE. Let me welcome Dr. Mohammed Hamad. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you, my pleasure.
So let me start with Amanat. Amanat was set up with an investment strategy to focus on two key sectors, healthcare and education, and very quickly listed on the DFM back in 2014. For those in the audience that may not be familiar with the company, can you share with us a brief background of Amanat and the thinking behind the investment strategy?
Sure. As you mentioned, 6 years ago, Amanat was found and listed since inception. It had set a precedent at the time to raise funds in the public domain to be invested in healthcare and education. Two defensive sectors, strong long-term fundamentals, geared for success and growth. It succeeded. It's worth noting that Amanat is a permanent capital vehicle, which means we're not rushed to exit. This is one. And two, that means we are able to hold on to our assets and grow them. And in education and healthcare, you notice that this is a very important attribute because it allows you to see through the long-term value creation initiatives in both sectors. Within Amanat, we focus on the total shareholder return. At the end of the day, we are here to make money to our shareholders while investing into resilient sectors. So we focus on optimizing the portfolio, which is the companies we invest in, across three verticals. We work on corporate governance, corporate strategy, corporate finance. We also look to obviously invest and deploy the remainder of the capital, diversify the revenue streams, and build capabilities at the level of the holding and as well as at the portfolio. So what has been an idea 6 years ago, today became the largest healthcare and education investment firm in the region, offering a unique, diversified access to investors into two very defensive sectors.
Excellent. And look, I've spoken to many investors over the past months, and three key sectors keep coming up in conversations: technology, healthcare, and education. We're going to talk about technology a little later, but what are the key emerging trends you're seeing in the healthcare and education sectors?
So to your point, for us, it's two sectors, healthcare and education, and technology in both. And this is a recent one, so I'll tap into it in a second. Let's start with healthcare and education. Years back, when we were working in this region, the focus of the government and the private sector at that time was one, penetration of the private sector. And we've seen that the private sector has been penetrating and growing in both education and healthcare. The focus was on access. How can I get healthcare to patients? How can I make sure my kids can get education? Today, it has become much more the focus on the quality of healthcare, quality of education, and more so the efficiency in providing that. Today, when you consider the macroeconomic environment, it's prudent to realize that we need to deliver good healthcare outcomes or strong healthcare and education outcomes, but at a very cost-efficient manner. And this is a very important area. Secondly, in the past, you would notice that the focus was mainly on general, be it general healthcare, general education. Today, it's more personalized models. Today, the patient expects to see secondary healthcare and tertiary healthcare. In schools, parents expect to have a well-rounded education to their children, not only just go study arithmetics and literacy, but also what about the soft skills? What about building confidence? So we started to see all of that. More recently, technology, to your point, has been one of the most significant emerging trends. I think globally, technology has been disrupting both industries quite significantly.
Okay.
And more recently in the region, we started to see that effect, and I'm happy to talk you through it.
We will talk to that. But before we get there, I want to talk about 2020 and look, healthcare and education, when you look at defensive sectors, they're the first two that come up, right? Because it's something that we all need. But looking at what's happening in 2020, I think everyone's plans have been thrown off with the pandemic, and strategies have had to change for many businesses around the world. What are the biggest challenges the COVID-19 pandemic brought to the healthcare and education sectors? Some see it as being very positive, others see it as it was very challenging.
It was very challenging for sure. However, we've learned a lot. I think all of us, starting from the regulators and the governments to the public sector, to the private sector, we've learned a lot. And I think we've emerged stronger than ever.
Okay.
I can tell you, look, this market, and specifically this nation, is geared for success. We have all the right fundamentals. We have the right leadership, we have the right vision, we have the right approach. And as a private sector, we look to collaborate with the government and the public sector to achieve that and overcome the challenges. Because the challenges really stem from the crux of a disintegrated approach to solving problems.
Okay.
This is what COVID taught us, the importance of an integrated approach, the importance of a partnership approach to solve problems. Today, we talk about data and about technology and its importance to predict the next pandemic. But we will only be able to do that if companies like Facebook work with the DHA, they work with the Dubai Future Foundation, and they work with Amanat as an investor collaboratively to analyze data and to collect data and to streamline that data to better healthcare outcomes. I think this is the biggest learning and the challenge that we faced at a very macro level. In a more specific way, we faced challenges in the healthcare sector because simply there were restrictions on procedures, there were curfews not allowing patients to come to hospitals and see it, and we had to shift to cater to those very quickly. In IMC, for example, we had to start telemedicine and start home care services within the pandemic. In education, we had to shift immediately to online learning, to train our teachers and the parents to homeschool their children as well. So those were the key challenges, but I think we have emerged stronger than ever.
Yeah, I think every parent I know who had children in school and in education were complaining during the lockdown at how difficult it is. I think they were praising the teachers for what they realize what they have to go through at school, right?
I'm not a parent yet, but I had to go through this when sitting on the board of Ta'aleem or in Abu Dhabi University or Middlesex University, where we had to really work with the parents' expectations and aspirations. We had to work to try to maintain our most important asset, which is the teachers and the nurses and the doctors, on the other hand, on the healthcare. And so we've lived it, not necessarily specifically as a parent, but with the parents and the other stakeholders.
Good, good. And look, you've invested in a number of education facilities. How did you deal with the lockdown situation at the schools and university? You said you went remote learning, but I'm sure it wasn't easy for everyone, not just for yourselves, but like you said, for parents. How did you deal with it? How quickly was that move into digital learning?
What I can tell, thanks for this question. What I can tell you is the most important element that allowed us to emerge stronger than before and more or less be strong within the pandemic and show resilience was our agile and nimble reaction to it, and the strength of our management teams and our people to very quickly react to it. So to give you an example, we started noticing the headwinds back in April when there were payments that needed to be made. So parents were like, why should I pay this amount if I'm having to homeschool our children? So we had to step up as stakeholders, as shareholders, to come up and say, we are able to offer you at par education to your children, and that's why you need to pay. We had to train our teachers to do so. We didn't give any salary discounts to teachers. On the contrary, we protected our teachers, as again, I say our most important asset. We have given a one-time discount in Taaleem for term 3 fees, just
good.
to absorb the reaction and to feel, at the end of the day, we invest in sectors that are fundamental and they have a social depth into it. And we need to be very cautious and smart to realize and acknowledge this. Yes, we're here to make money. Yes, we are a commercial financial investor. But there's also the social element of things, and it has paid off. We saw our student enrollments increase in September in Taaleem. We saw Abu Dhabi University record its strongest summer ever during the pandemic, because I think we wore the hat of a social responsible investor.
And look, I think it's important where you step forward and you assist parents. The waivers, the discounts is something extremely important, because when they put their child in school, it's not for 1 year or 2 years, it's for a number of years. And they want that. They don't just want great education, they want support from the school as well in various other ways. And look, so let's stick with education and talk about EdTech, right? We mentioned technology. EdTech has been a topic of interest for years, and it's growing rapidly. There are some great platforms out there, and I'm sure we'll keep seeing more. What are the key trends you're seeing as an investor in this space?
EdTech is a very exciting field. We have recently invested in an education technology company, which was our first. Amanat, just to give you a sense, Amanat is usually, the core mandate is to invest in conventional healthcare and conventional education, namely hospitals, universities, and schools. But given the disruption that technology is imposing on both of these sectors, and we believe the importance of us being a leader in that field, otherwise we might lose an opportunity. We continue to focus on our core mandate with 90% or even more, but we've decided to start investing in technology. And we started the first one in EdTech, to your question. We invested in a company called Begin, which is a US-based company that focuses on early childhood learning. And this is a very important topic, because when we say EdTech, people think it's only online education. It's how can I deliver classes online? This is, I think, tangential. It's not even EdTech. EdTech is a very wide array of verticals within that range from just optimizing school operation to standardized examination to digital curricula, all the way to gamification and other areas of education. So what technology does is it complements what schools are supposed to do. It improves outcome. It helps you monitor children. It helps you identify learning gaps or talents within children. And that's what Begin does, actually. It complements the learning of children in a very important age of their life, in between 2 and 8 years old. Usually, it's a very overlooked area in the education field, but this company focuses on how can I build confidence and personal soft skills in children. And we both know that ends up being a very important attribute in the outer year of life and your potential success. So it's a wide array, and we're interested in across the board of it.
So do you look at opportunities not just within UAE or the region, but outside of the region, and bring those opportunities here as well? Is that something that Amanat focuses on?
That's exactly our model. So when it comes to conventional, it's only MENA region, because this is where we can create value. This is where we can work with management teams to support. But when it comes to technology, we feel technology is in its nascent stages. And technology, we need to cast a wide net. You need to look at the US and at Canada and at the UK, in addition to the region. We feel Amanat could play a strategic partner role to those technologies who are currently focusing on growth in their own markets. We are interested in identifying the winners between them and growing them into the MENA region. And I think the MENA region has quite a bit of an opportunity to benefit from absorbing those technologies.
Good. And look, when you look at education, you've got different levels and streams of education, starting from, very, very early stage at nursery and moving all the way to executive education when you're working as well. What are the key focus areas in EdTech? Because, when I look at it, lockdown, what was the main thing? Schools are, implementing Zoom or SM Microsoft Teams, and being able to conduct lessons to their students through that. But obviously, with what you've been saying, there's a lot more there when it comes to EdTech. What are the key focus areas in EdTech, and are there more prominent and easily adopted technologies that are playing a big role in EdTech? Or do you see a lot more development to come? Is there a long way for EdTech to go forward?
I'm very optimistic about the future of EdTech and its impact on the market. I think the way we look at it is the return on education has been dropping over the past few years because it really has become, you're paying more and getting almost the same as what we've learned, or what our parents have learned. So technology is coming to bridge and improve and enhance the return on education by offering you a wider skill set to deliver to the students and to learn from. But it even goes beyond that. It goes into systems and into tools that have artificial intelligence integrated in it, that has virtual reality integrated in it, that allows you to start experimenting and testing using virtual reality, that allows you to identify areas through artificial intelligence, weaknesses and strengths, and what needs to be bridged and what have you. In addition to that, when it comes to, so this is all student facing, but you should also consider technologies that are infrastructure, that are within the universities. How can I build tailored courses and tailor the programs to a certain institutions based on its needs, and really try to bridge the capability gap and the needs with courses and education and what academia we should be offering. And this becomes a more personalized approach towards delivering education, and a targeted approach towards delivering education. Not just haphazardly, let me offer you a curriculum across the board and hope for the best. It has evolved.
Good. And something that's just come to my mind is, I've been hearing a lot more parents now talking about homeschooling, especially after, what they've gone through this year. And it all comes down to what tools are available for homeschooling. Personally, I think EdTech, it will play a very key role in allowing parents to do homeschooling very effectively.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, look, this is a zero-sum game. If you have a parent overseeing a child at home, the parent is not at work. The parent is not at work, they lose their job, they cannot pay for the schooling. It's a cycle if you see it from that angle. The technologies we're talking about go beyond just the online platforms that allow a teacher to speak to a number of students remotely. It goes beyond that. It really goes into skilling the students.
A means of education.
Exactly. And look, I mean, if you look at conventional education, how can you identify artists or talented people, or students who have soft skills or are just driven towards a functional career that goes beyond being a lawyer or being a doctor or being an engineer, or and these technologies allow you to identify that very early on and start to gear the growth and development of those children to where it matters to them and where they can compete in the future.
And look, that's very important. You've done medicine. At the time you were applying, universities were probably
I wish I was taught business at the time.
And look, when you were applying, I'm sure universities were looking at your grades, right? Today, I know universities do not look at grades because they've got so many A-grade students coming. They look at the soft skill and what they're doing outside of that normal education.
Emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. There's nothing more important than emotional intelligence in the potential future success of a person, because standardized examinations are testing your IQ, right? Your intelligence quotient, which is of course very important. You need to be smart, you need to be competitive, you need to have the right basics and the right tools. But all of that can be acquired with life as you grow. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, needs to be acknowledged and seen in order to know how to react to situations, how to behave. Very smart people did not succeed in life. And I would say mediocre smartness people have succeeded and made it up to very, very senior positions, because there's a personality angle to things, there's a confidence angle to things, there's a structured approach, there's knowing how to react to crisis. Talking about COVID, your ability to react to crisis and not just panic and lose focus is very essential. And I think we both agree, you would notice it starts to become a very important element that ultimately costs investors hundreds of millions of dollars when it comes to that.
It does. Good. So look, if we move on to healthcare, I'm sure with the facilities in your portfolio, you saw a dramatic increase in the number of patients visiting this year. But it's something that needed to be managed efficiently. How did you manage the restrictions on patient volumes, and how has the restrictions impacted the sector overall?
At the beginning of COVID, the market expected healthcare to just thrive because they expect that it's a healthcare issue and healthcare institutions would benefit. I would tell you, out of experience, that was not the case.
Okay.
Healthcare was initially impacted in the first few weeks.
Okay.
However, certain organizations that had the scale and they were diversified enough and had the right leadership and the right guidance and the right management teams and skill set were actually able to ultimately benefit and emerge stronger from that. And we are lucky that our institutions tend to be from this bracket. The initial impact was simply restrictions and curfew, so you cannot see your patients.
Okay.
Restrictions on any elective procedure, which means a big portion of your revenue is absolutely gone. At the same time, your cost is fixed in a healthcare institution. Your doctors are there, your nurses are there, your staff is there, and your consumables are already paid for, right? So there's little wiggle way to deal with. So that got us to start thinking, don't think of only the cost. Cost is important, let's rationalize it. But what's more important is let's drive top line again. That's the only way to succeed. Focus on revenues, focus on growth. Even during COVID, we shifted directly into telemedicine. We acquired technology, and we've trained our doctors and our nurses to see patients via technology channels to continue to see them. We were able to get payers and insurance companies on board to pay for that consultation online. What that has done is two things. One is it kept us busy and obviously generated revenue. But two, it created a backlog of patients so that after restrictions were relieved, we were able to resume our procedures and our operations at make up for what we had lost. I can tell you, by now, we have fully recovered from the COVID impact on our healthcare institutions. We've done a full turnaround. And as a matter of fact, in one of the months, as I mentioned, there was a backlog that had seen us even go to stronger than pre-COVID days. And now I would say we're fully recovered.
Excellent, excellent. And you talk about technology. It is making an impact in healthcare. And health tech has started to reshape the way in which care is being provided. And the first step I've seen in health tech is that online consultation, if I may say. But how do you envisage health tech impacting the sector, and how will it change that sector?
So thanks for this. I think similar to what we said on the education side, people think that health tech is, how can I see a doctor online? Well, it's part of it, but that's just a very small part of it. The way you and I know healthcare or knew healthcare was we would show up to an emergency room, ask for a doctor, and your journey starts. I would tell you as of now, and in the foreseeable future, your gateway into healthcare will be on your phone. It will be an app. You will have access, global access to healthcare. global access to healthcare, not only just the doctor next door.
Local. Yeah.
You have access for a secondary opinion out of world-renowned institutions, and so on and so forth, on seeing a doctor and pursuing healthcare. But it goes beyond that as well. It also goes to home diagnostics. It goes to chronic disease management and monitoring, which is a very important area. Today, and this is a tangent here, if you allow me, in this market, be it in the UAE or in Saudi Arabia or the rest of the GCC, majority of our healthcare spend is coming from chronic disease management.
Okay.
It's diabetes, it's cardiovascular diseases, it's obesity, etc. What these technologies allow you to do is to monitor those patients or those predisposed to these conditions and prevent the progression of their disease. So moving more to a prevention model of care rather than just curative. Curative is expensive. Preventative is the right way forward. And technology allows you to do that. So the way I foresee this sector playing out is a fully integrated online, offline healthcare offering to see your patients, know your patients, track them, monitor them, and push and predict their healthcare outcomes while fully integrated within the healthcare infrastructure. That includes the insurer, that includes the regulator. And there's a role here. There's a role for the governments to play, and there's a role for the insurance companies to play, because we need the right legislation, we need the right policies that allow us to provide this global access to patients, and for the insurance company to pay for it.
Good. And look, when you look at finance and you look at fintech, it's that buzzword disruption, right? And fintech is going to come and disrupt the whole way banking is done, and people say the way exchanges work, and I have my own opinions on that. But how mature is
Me
it?
too.
Let's not share it on this webinar. How mature is the technology in healthcare today? And where do you see disruption? Will there actually be disruption in the healthcare? Or will it actually really promote healthcare? And from what the signs of what you're saying, it's actually going to help hospitals and doctors and the facilities, as opposed to just disrupting them, right? Absolutely. I don't think we're going to see any alternative ways of getting medical care. But where do you see disruption really taking place, and at which stage of the patient cycle?
I'm glad you mentioned this, because it's important to note technology will never replace the core. We will always require an operating theater. We will always require a CCU and an ICU for certain conditions. We will always require a physical space to conduct imaging and diagnostics and what have you, right? So technology will not replace. Technology will complement, it will enhance, it will empower, it will make it more productive, more efficient, better outcomes. That's what technology would do. And this is why Amanat's core mandate to invest will continue to be in hospital groups, in platforms, in fully integrated platforms, scalable, that are diversified across geographies, that are focused on specialties, that are enhanced by technology and have the ability to expand and grow by adopting the right technologies into it. So to your questions about, is there disruption? Disruption is taking place. This is old news. Disruption is ongoing. Yes, it is disruptive, and more so globally than in the region. And we have a role here to play. And I think through you and through our partnership with the stock exchange and with the policymakers in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi and the rest of the Emirate, we will be able to identify those technologies and promote them in this region to continue the disruption in this sector, because it's a good disruption.
So we'll still need that operating theater, but God forbid I need to, but will there be a day when I walk into that operating theater, lie there, and instead of a surgeon coming, you've got a robot? That do you think we're going to get to a point where you've got machines operating on humans?
So we are almost there, as you know. So there is robotic assisted surgeries today taking place in many types of surgeries, by the way, across, be it in neurosurgery, cardiovascular
Okay.
surgery or even gynecologic surgeries, there is robotic assisted technologies. So it's there. Don't worry about that.
But you still need a human there.
You will always, I mean, the human element goes beyond just the performance or the transaction that we're talking about. What the human or the physician does is builds a relationship with the patient, gets to know the patient, studies the patient. Today we have technologies that allow you to mine this data and all of that. But at the end of the day, there is medicine and there's a physician that allows to deliver that. The role of the physician will differ from a know-it-all and doing everything to more of a monitoring role and making sure that I'm monitoring the patient properly and that the right regimen is being followed and what have you. So the need for physicians and nurses will continue to be there. The role, the function itself will shift to be in line with the growing technologies that we're seeing.
Yeah. And then other than from a technology perspective, how else has the provision of healthcare been altered? Or how do you see it being altered?
Say that again, sorry.
Other than from a technology perspective, playing a key role in changing the way healthcare is, how else has the provision of healthcare altered? Or do you expect it to alter?
So with the advancements in genomics and personalized medicine and getting to really know the DNA of the human being and predict their healthcare outcomes in the outer years, even manipulate their healthcare outcomes and be able to intervene earlier on. And I say manipulate in a positive connotation here. The shift towards a personalized approach will continue to take place and take center stage. In this region specifically, you would notice there's still a need for specialized healthcare.
Okay.
No matter how much we think that we are saturated when it comes to primary or even secondary care, I can tell you this market is underserved when it comes to tertiary and quaternary care, right? Our ability to navigate and grow a specialized approach in healthcare to be able to offer tertiary and quaternary procedure is a very important element. And you can only achieve that by following the model that we follow basically, which is you need size, you need scale. You cannot today open a 50-bed hospital that's expected to do advanced neurosurgery. There's not enough volumes for that. But if you are part of a group where you have a hospital in Dubai and in Northern Emirates and 3 in Abu Dhabi and 4 in Saudi, and they are part of a group under one umbrella working cohesively, you will have the ability to offer that. In just as a in lieu of that, there's also the element of the ability to attract talent into the region continues to be of importance. Money alone will not attract talent. This talent are professors in very advanced markets doing very well. For them to come, it's not only about money. Anyway, if you overpay, your business model will fail. We need to approach this from a holistic fashion. We need to have the right infrastructure to have research, to have academia, to complement healthcare offering. Those professors need to come and have their lab and be able to publish articles and work. And we have a wealth of data over here that we can benefit from if we approach this from multiple approaches. Amanat is not the private sector generally is not the right one to invest in R&D. The government has a role there. But this is where we can approach this in a partnership fashion, where the public sector would offer the R&D capabilities and the funding for it and the stimulus packages, and the private sector would invest in healthcare delivery and in looking at building healthcare institutions.
And do you see it going toward there? Do you see a lot more research opportunities opening up here in the region?
Baby steps. Baby steps. There's a lot more that could be done. It's definitely in the right direction. As I told you, this nation has all the right attributes. It's geared to succeed from that, but it's moving in baby steps because I kind of feel the private sector is not playing the role that it needs to play. It's being dealt with separately, but there are a lot of private institutions that could add value, and we would love to be one of them.
Excellent, wonderful. So now let's look at things from an investment perspective. How is the investment landscape shifting since the pandemic started, and where do you see the most potential in the two sectors?
Investment at the beginning of pandemic had slowed down, just driven by the market being cautious.
Okay.
And that was also accompanied by macroeconomic factors that did not necessarily support.
Okay.
Today, I think some people might think I'm overly optimistic, but frankly, I am optimistic, cautiously optimistic, I would say, not overly optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Because today, when companies like Amanat, that has a very strong balance sheet with capabilities to further deploy and further invest in this environment, is only geared to succeed, in my opinion. There will be a lot of consolidation opportunities that will come up, and we're seeing that across both. What COVID has taught us is that standalone single assets that do not have size and scale are not as resilient, even if they are schools and even if they are hospitals. So in order for you to be resilient, you need scale, you need diversification. And hence the move towards roll-up and M&A in the region is expected to emerge. Secondly, we've also shifted our investment as Amanat to look into special situations. We do expect special situations to emerge. The financial crunch is being faced by those companies, and investment opportunities will emerge. So the ability of the investor to invest equity, preferred equity, or even debt-like instruments into those special situations will be center stage. And I think, again, Amanat, given its balance sheet, will be well positioned to benefit from that. There's also obviously the investment opportunities in technologies. Again, you've seen that the investment in both EdTech and health tech globally and regionally has increased significantly over the last 3-4 months. We have made an investment in the midst of COVID. We continue to look at opportunities across the board. We have a very healthy pipeline of potential investments that I think we could always benefit from. So from an investment and M&A perspective, I think you will see quite a bit of an activity in 2021.
Okay. And is that from a consolidation perspective?
Yeah.
Do you see that consolidation in both sectors, healthcare and education?
In both sectors, because the fundamentals for consolidation are very similar.
Yeah.
Both are defensive sectors, right? We agree. Both they have the right fundamentals. There's a growing demand for them, and there's an eternal demand for them, for both healthcare and education. However, the standalone assets, just from a pure financial viability and sustainability perspective, it is not as resilient. And it cannot absorb shocks as platforms or as larger institutions. And this is why you would see that the larger players would look to consolidate and to roll up the rest of the market, actually at attractive valuations.
And if we look at the region and the investors we have here, how has the scope of regional investors changed in the last few years? What are the general criteria investors are looking for?
We are a regional investor. I can tell you how we changed. We, from our perspective, I think we become a smarter investor. Smarter investor in a sense that, one, being able to face a pandemic with a strong balance sheet is a big win. Because it allowed us to navigate and go through it at the holding and at the portfolio level very smoothly, and be able to assess without the impact of just how can I manage cash flows, right? This is from one perspective. In terms of looking at opportunities, we've directly reacted to what the market needs. The market needed us to look at technology. We looked at technology. As a matter of fact, very quickly, we shifted and we invested in technology, and we had all the board support for that, which was great. We are foreseeing a potential special situations to come up. We've integrated that into our model, and we are starting to look at special situations. So the way we look at it is from both sides. What matters is you need to invest in sustainable organizations. You need to allow financial sustainability, and you need organizations that are geared to the future, that have the right teams and the right mindset to integrate technology, to have the right governance, which we focus a lot on actually. I mean, even before the pandemic, we've seen different examples in the global market and the regional market of how important governance is.
Okay.
We are a listed company, you are our regulator, and we think and we believe that we adopt the highest standards of corporate governance and of reporting and transparency. And this is very, very important.
Good, good, excellent. So look, I'm going to go to a couple of questions we've received. The first one is, beyond distance learning, how will artificial intelligence and machine learning impact the education and health sectors?
So we've covered some of that during the discussion. I think it'll enhance it. It'll improve the productivity across. It'll allow us to move towards personalized treatment and personalized education. It will democratize healthcare and it will democratize education. And I think it will improve healthcare outcomes and improve academic outcomes in students. So the way I see it is only positive if dealt with and integrated in the right fashion.
Okay, good. We've got another question saying, I want to know Amanat market share in both sectors, education and health, and what's the target market share they are looking for?
So this is a great question. Thanks for that. We tend to identify potential winners or winners in the market and invest in them. If you look at our portfolio, Abu Dhabi University has around 40% market share in the private sector in Abu Dhabi. It's definitely the leader in the private sector in Abu Dhabi, and we are very proud that we have it in our portfolio. Middlesex University is one of the leaders in the Dubai market, apologies, in the Dubai market in the higher education sector. IMC has more than 50% market share in the VIP market segment in Jeddah. And it's definitely a winner there. Sukoon was a pioneer and was the first hospital that offered long-term care services in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Royal Hospital for Women and Children is the only specialized hospital in the Kingdom of Bahrain for women and children. So this is the long example of the long answer to your question about we invest in winners, companies that tend to have a strong market presence and the ability to grow further from there onwards. And Amanat's role in that is to create further value and grow it from there. When we invested in Middlesex, the number of students increased by 16% between there and today. If you look at each of our portfolio companies, I mean, Ta'aleem today is around the 9,000 students platform across Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So this is our approach. We don't have a target market share. It's not the metric that we follow per se, but what we follow is resilience elements, and part of it is size and scale and people.
Okay. Another question here. Someone's asking around dividends, and obviously as investors, dividends is quite important. Can you just give a bit of overview around dividends as a listed company? What's your views around that, and what can investors expect?
So that's a great one, but a tricky one as well. So our main focus, if I could say the highest objective we have, the priority, is our total shareholder return, right? Our total shareholder return is composed of two things. One is the gain on their investment, which is the appreciation of the stock price. And secondly is dividends, right? And they go hand in hand. What matters eventually is the total shareholder return. We have been a dividend paying company, and this is just a testament that we share with our shareholders. When we accumulate retained earnings, we tend to distribute the maximum possible to our shareholders. So this is the view. What matters to us is fundamentally building value. And building value comes across various folds. One is having a strong portfolio that is performing and that is growing. And I've shed some light during this interview on how we grow portfolio and how we create value. Secondly, investing in growing opportunities in line with global trends, and we're talking about the widened investment mandate that Amanat has been adopting. And thirdly, is focusing on the market as well and engaging with our shareholders and with the market. It is doing having these discussions and having to talk and engage with the market and listening to what the market needs. It's communicating with the market, and the support of the stock exchange and of the investors is of utmost importance. So all of these elements tend to deliver technical pillars and fundamental pillars, both of which deliver total shareholder return.
Okay, good. So look, to finish up, Dr. Ahmad, it would be great to hear what we can expect from Amanat in the near future. I know you touched on a few things. If you're able to share with us, what can we expect from you?
What we can expect from Amanat is frankly, I strongly believe, we have all the right attributes, from shareholders, board composition, management team, but also balance sheet, corporate strategy, and a focus on the right sectors that are only geared to grow and to succeed. We expect to lead. We expect our platform to further grow. We are not limited to the 2.5 billion dirhams that have been issued. Our type of a company allows us to use our shares as a currency. We have the ability to raise further debt. We have the ability to do a rights issuance. We have the ability to acquire and merge and consolidate with others by share swap. So I think we have all the right fundamentals to allow us to grow further from here. We invest in two sectors that are geared for growth. It's highest on the agenda of the government. We want to work collaboratively with the right stakeholders across, and I think we're only geared for further success and growth. And I definitely hope so, and this is what I and the rest of the team are here to deliver.
Excellent. We look forward to that growth.
Thank you very much.
It's been a great pleasure having you here with us and sharing your insights into the healthcare and education sectors. Thank you very much.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us as well, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next webinar. Thank you.